After my first thoughts being, how do I play this game, my second thoughts quickly became, whoa, what the heck is going on? And how did I just do that?
It's your turn now.
Welcome everyone, StealthyShiroean here, and today I'm bringing you my first impressions for Dynasty Warriors Origins. Koei Tecmo Games designed and published the game, which, for those who don't know, is a musou game. After receiving Persona 5 Strikers and the Humble Choice bundle recently, I decided I wanted to be more open to other games in the genre, which I didn't even realize had a name for it until recently. So, when the demo for the latest Dynasty Warriors game was released, I decided to give it a try and tell you my thoughts as a new player to the genre. Origins is a decent looking game. I wouldn't say that it excels in graphics, but it does a really good job depicting a lot of fighters on the battlefield. The whole atmosphere of a battle and the graphics and sound is done remarkably well. Everything felt hectic and chaotic in a way I'd imagine a real battlefield would be like. Without the super-powered individuals, of course. We only got to see one battlefield in the demo, but I'd be keen on seeing other designs the game has to offer. There is voice acting in the game as well, with your choice of Chinese, Japanese, and English. Normally, I'd use whatever the intended language would be, so I assumed either Chinese, since it was Romance of the Three Kingdoms, or Japanese, since it was developed by a Japanese dev team. I chose the former, but after getting into the fighting and seeing just how crazy everything got, I found I couldn't read subtitles and pay attention to what was going on around me. However, the English voice acting wasn't that great. I can't help but feel like the voice actors are trying too hard. I don't know. Maybe it's just the way they speak.
In order to defeat Dong Zhou.
Lord Wangquan, welcome. No sight could have lifted my heart more.
Your words honor me.
Zhang Yang, governor of Shandong. I have come to join the alliance against Dong Zhou.
You are most welcome, Lord Zhang Yang. Show us what you're capable of.
By all means.
Although I'm also the same way when it comes to watching anime and English dubs, it just sounds strange to me. So take that as you will. An obvious nitpick that really isn't a big deal. The story of Dynasty Warriors Origins follows the events of Romance of the Three Kingdoms. I'm not really that familiar with the source material though, other than what little I remember from Total War Three Kingdoms. All I know from the gameplay overview video is, you play as a warrior with amnesia. So an obvious unnamed fighter they could throw into the story without needing to use a named character. As for the demo, the battle they have players take part in is the Battle of Sishui Gate. According to the game, this was the wall protecting the capital where the tyrant Dong Zhou resided. And that was about it. Not much to comment on. I never really gravitated to these games before in the past because I always figured it was a game where you spam one button and kill a bunch of dudes. Well, it is sorta like that. Not one button though, and the combat was a bit more fleshed out than I expected. And I actually like the power fantasy the game gives to the player. Well, until I got hard stopped in the end, but I'll touch on that later. Combat in Dynasty Warriors Origins is hectic, as mentioned, with a ton of things going on all at once. Before a fight, the leaders lay out a course of attack, and they all take different fronts to initiate their assault. As the fight progresses, officers will sound off that they're advancing or need help. Actually, it was very jarring when I first played because it would full stop pause the combat to tell you whatever was about to happen. And this could be right in the middle of you performing an attack, which was really annoying. Luckily, there's an option called Battle Assistance that you could turn down or completely off. Anyway, the player can choose to ignore these pleas or help as needed. Originally, I just stuck to the guys I started near and didn't pay much attention to anything else. However, I don't think this is what the game wants players to do. First, you could lose other officers, and by extension morale, if you don't go and help. Because they're helpless by themselves. And no one is more important than Yuan Shao, the leader of your forces. If he dies, which he will because he's pretty stupid, then you lose the fight. Eventually, I decided to stick to him like glue to make sure he didn't get himself way over his head. However, as I gained more confidence and understanding about what was happening, I rode out to capture other bases around the target location as well. Captured bases help with improving morale, which in turn improves the combat effectiveness of your forces overall. An allied control base also provides the player with a one-time chance to replenish healing items, also replenishes your troops so that you could perform tactics on the field. And I just realized that I spent all this time talking about the battle, but not the actual minute-to-minute combat. The player has access to a variety of weapons that all have different weapon skills. In order to use these skills, you build bravery, which I think replenishes over time as you continue to fight. Each of these weapons and other equipable accessories gives you passive buffs. The player can also select various tactics for their troops to perform in battle. This can be things like charging forward, firing a volley of arrows, and encircling a pesky enemy officer. The actual fighting has you doing light and heavy attacks along with dodging and blocking enemies. Blocking certain attacks at the right time can parry the enemy, or using a specific skill can cancel an enemy's skill. Fairly standard stuff, and actually was more fleshed out than what I thought it would be given my original perception of the genre as a whole. In the actual attack on the gate, certain grand strategies play out in a series of mini objectives. If the enemy succeeds in their grand strategy, then of course, that results in a huge blow to the fighting force and morale. Opposite this, you gain morale and make a significant dent in the enemy's force if your strategy is pulled off. Although, I felt this system could be smarter. Why make a great offensive hinge on this one guy being alive, when he's already almost dead when I get the notification telling me he has to survive, making the strategy virtually impossible to pull off. This isn't really a big deal though, because you could tackle the objectives in any way you see fit. The player can follow the cues of the leader's offensive tactics, or they can just go in guns blazing. In one instance, when the gate battle started, I just went straight for the enemy leader and took him out, thereby winning the battle. But not really though, because the demo had one more surprise, and his name was Lu Bu.
Watch well. This is the power of the strongest warrior, unrivaled under heaven.
It's Lloyd Boo! You gotta get out of here!
What is this? Done already, you snakes?
Despite not knowing much about Romance of the Three Kingdoms, I do know that Lu Bu was supposed to be an excellent fighter. I remember him taking out tons of dudes in Total War Three Kingdoms all by himself. So it's no surprise that he was a tough fight. However, I felt the fight was almost too difficult. Maybe this is something typical of the franchise, but I felt his fight really clashed with the rest of the experience up until that point. The fighting until then was mainly me just slashing through a ton of cannon fodder troops and having some tense but surmountable fights with enemy officers. There was a bit of a learning curve, but it never felt overly punishing. However, Lu Bu is the brick wall to all that. I tried my hand against him so many times. It didn't seem to matter what troop tactics I used, or if I managed to keep a lot of allied officers alive by the time I got to this fight, because Lu Bu would kill them all. It basically became a 1v1 fight. After a dozen or so times, I finally gave him the towel. I was getting better at times, but he had moves that would punish you severely if you messed up. This seemed really antithesis to everything up until that point. Before I jump into my final thoughts, please consider giving this video a like if you enjoyed it, as that helps me out greatly with the YouTube algorithm gods. I put about 3 hours into this demo, and I actually liked it. I think the fight with Lu Bu has shifted my expectations, and if I do end up playing this game in the future, then I'll go in expecting tough as nails fights. The basic concept of the game to throw you into a big battle and give you the power fantasy to go ham on everyone is a joy though. The full game seems like we'll have an overworld map the player can explore as they fight on different battlefields and travel to various cities. It looks like it'll be a lot of fun. However, one thing I know they won't change, but I wish they would. Why can't we customize our character? I mean, the character is just a random no-name with amnesia for the convenient sake of having the player exist outside of the story and not be tied to anything written in Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Maybe that's something that isn't a franchise standard either though, but it'd be appreciated. Anyway, for anyone interested in the game, then you could still try out the demo. For others interested but want to wait for the full game, then it comes out on January 17th, 2025. And if you do play the demo, then let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't, then let me know if it looks like something you'd be interested in, or if you have any other questions. I hope this video helped you in some small way, and if it did, then please consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, or whatever it is you feel like doing. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.